Hi, and welcome to the video series on Craigslist outsourcing secrets. In this particular video series, we're going to talk about how to expand your business by outsourcing. As you know, running a business can be very time consuming. Once you start up your business, you'll find that there's a lot of tedious tasks, a lot of time consuming tasks that take up your time. So as a business owner, it can be hard because you're not able to spend most of that time on the most important parts of your business. In order to expand as a business, you have to outsource. I wish I had known this in the beginning when I ran my business or began my business. Because if I had started to outsource, my business would have expanded a lot more. I'd have more time to play and less time working and making more money. So that's your goal in this video series here, is to use Craigslist as a means to find freelancers and perhaps possible employees to hire and build your team. Now, outsourcing, a lot of people can have negative connotations with outsourcing because they have had bad experiences. But here's what I have found. If you don't know how to outsource, then of course you're going to lose a lot of time, you're going to lose a lot of money. If you know how to outsource, which you will find out in this video series, then that will not be an issue. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. This is video number 1, it's the introduction, and I'm going to talk about what you need and how it works. But before we do that, I want to talk about a quick overview of this whole video series as a whole. I'm a big believer, of course, that if you understand what we're going to talk about beforehand, then when we actually implement the systems and when we actually talk about the actual videos in the video series, then it all makes sense. You can put all the pieces of the puzzle together fairly easy, and you can implement it quickly and easily. So first video is this particular video. It's the introduction. Video number 2 is about figuring out your needs. Most people make this mistake of just going out and starting to hire people. You don't want to do that yet. You want to figure out your needs. Before you invest any money, you have to know what are the tasks that you need to outsource. And I'll give you a few examples in that particular video so you're not left in the dark. Video number 3 is talking about posting your ad to attract the right freelancers. Notice I say the right freelancers. The reason being is because most people don't know how to post ads. When I say that, I don't mean just put up an ad and that's it. What I mean by that is that most people don't know how to attract the correct freelancers, because there are different types of freelancers. There's article writers, there are customer support people, there's research people, there's programmers, technical people, graphic designers, and virtual assistants, and a lot more. Different types of people think differently. Technical people are logical. They're not going to think the same as a graphic designer who thinks more subjectively and less logically, more creatively. So if you post your ad, you may end up attracting the wrong person, because a lot of people out there think they know something, but really they don't. And I found over the years that, especially graphic designers, I'll say, hey, I need a graphic designer. Somebody applies and they think because they can use paint, they're a graphic designer. So you have to post the right ad in order to attract the right person. Video number 4 is the interviewing process, of course, how to filter the employees or the right freelancers out of the ones that you don't want. Video number 5 will talk about giving them a test project. Most people make the mistake right here. Most people, once they interview somebody, they find a potential candidate and they automatically hire them on the spot. That's a big mistake. Unless you know very well what you're looking for and how to do it, then you need to give them a test project. What this does in video 5, it does this. It gives you an opportunity to give them a test project so that they can do their best and prove to you that they really know what they're talking about. If this test project doesn't go well, there you go. You do pay them, but at least in this case, you know that they're really not a potential candidate. Otherwise, you hire them, you give them a full-time job, and you realize that it's too late and they're really not who they say they are. I've had that mistake in the past. I've hired somebody, given them a full-time job, only to realize that they're really not what I'm looking for. That was a big mistake. A lot of times I'll give them a test project, and we'll talk more about that in video 5. Video 6, we're going to talk about hiring them and paying them. Once you give them that test project, then what? And how do you go about paying them? There's 3 different types of payment sources that we'll talk about, because not everybody can take PayPal. And we'll talk about different payment sources that you can use. And of course, lastly, video 7, we'll talk about increasing productivity. Like I tell people, a lot of people hire somebody and then the person doesn't produce a good product or a good output. 90% of the time, it's because the leader of the pack or you do not communicate effectively. So that's the biggest issue, and I'll be talking about that later on. Increasing productivity, there's several different tips that I can show you to increase the output and increase productivity, and I'll show you that in just a minute. Let's talk about the tools that you're going to need. In order to outsource, you're going to need money. In most of the video series that I create, you don't need money, and I try to keep with a free software tool or a free tool. But in this case, because you're outsourcing, you're going to need money. You're going to need at least $150 to $250 per month. And honestly, that's not a lot of money, considering that you can hire somebody full-time with only less than $250 per month. And we're talking about you're able to get good people with $250. So if you want to hire somebody part-time, $150 is the way to go too. Now you're thinking, especially if you're thinking in America, $250 is not a lot of money. But in a lot of countries, it is, in fact, a lot of money. And I'll show you more of that later on. You're also going to need a bank account, a credit card, or a debit card. I say bank accounts are a must. Credit, debit cards, you don't have to have them, but they're convenience for you. You also need the internet and a brain. Well, obviously you have internet if you downloaded this video, and obviously you have a brain. So what we're going to be doing is using a lot of that. You're going to need patience, and you're going to need communication skills. Patience, when I say patience, when you hire somebody, you have to be patient. Not everybody's going to be able to produce something great within the first 30 days. In fact, you're going to have to train them to do what you want them to do. But guaranteed, once you train them, most likely they will be loyal to you once you follow these step-by-step steps. Communication skills. It's a must. You have to know how to communicate. Doesn't mean that you have to pick up a phone and talk to the person, but it does mean that you need to be able to communicate effectively. You need to be able to tell them exactly what you want. If they don't know, then you need to train them. And a good freelancer, by the way, has to have good communication skills as well. So it has to go both ways. You also need some sort of collaboration process. How can you communicate with your freelancers? You can use optional software like Huddle or Active Collab. Now, I'm not going to be using Huddle or Active Collab in this specific video series, but because a lot of collaboration that I do is purely email. But as long as you have a process, then it really doesn't matter if you use email, Huddle, Active Collab, or anything else. All right, so how does it work? The way it works is this. 90% of the time, the output of the product depends on how you communicate to your employee and to your freelancer. And that's one big thing that I want to mention, because what I found was this. Over the time and over the years, I've hired several people, and some of my business friends and business partners have hired the same person. And a lot of times, the output is not that great. Like, for example, I had a business partner that said, "Hey, look, I hired this guy. How is he producing better quality works for you, but he's not producing better quality works for me?" It's because communication. Like I said, 90% of the time, if you find somebody who is a good worker, 90% of the time or more, it's because you are not able to communicate well with that person. You are the leader of the pack. Remember that. Because you're the leader of the pack, you have to know how to communicate, you have to know how to build trust, and you need to know how to build a relationship and build loyalty. If you can do that and they enjoy working for you, they are going to give you a better output, and they'll do their best to do that. Remember, bad communication equals bad output. Good communication equals good output. Now that you know how that works, let me give you an example. This is an example of someone I use all the time to create my e-covers. Now, you're probably looking at this right now and thinking, man, this stinks. Well, guess what? I saw the potential in this guy, but I knew that if I was able to communicate effectively to him, I would be able to get something good. And guess what? Take a quick look at this. Now, take a quick look at this. I was able to take his potential skills and effectively communicate with him. I did everything that I will talk about in this video series, and he created a great looking e-cover. All right, so now you know how it really works. Let's talk about the video series. How does this video series and how does outsourcing all work? Well, simply figure out your needs. Number two, understand the person you need to hire. If you understand the person that you hire, your output is going to be greater. You need to understand who you need to hire and what skills they have. Get inside their heads. Understand how they think. You need to attract them by posting that ad, but you need to post a correct ad to attract the right person. Then you need to hire them, train them, and pay them and build the relationship. If you build that relationship and they enjoy working for you, like I said, you're going to get a better output. Let me give you an example. Most people quit their jobs not because of better pay. It's because their bosses, they just hate their job and they hate their bosses. And guess what? It's the same thing. If the freelancer enjoys working with you, they will give you high priority all the time. Now, of course, if you're having a full-time person, they better give you high priority. But if you're just hiring them to do part-time work, they're going to give you priority because they actually enjoy working with you. They actually care about your business and they will stay with your business for a long, long time. And then it increases loyalty to you.